course, if you have limited resources, you cannot create more. But in the case of immaterial goods, this just doesn't work. So you can generate more and more.
But for me, I mean, I'll be short on this and let you say, but for me, this is not about more. And on this, we disagree on a lot of things, I think, which is healthy. But on this, Adam Curtis, the BBC documentary maker who did a series of fantastic documentaries, especially the last few years, he gave an interview recently to the Register, and I encourage people to read it. It was maybe a month ago, where I completely agree with him, and two of them completely disagree more or less, is that by producing what we call knowledge production today is a complete stupidification of society. From my view, I think I feel much more stupid than I was when I was 20 years old. You know, it's by having more, by having blogs, by having networks, by having exchanges, we are keeping communication on a very shallow, superficial level, and simply on a level which allows us to, you know, be very verbose and non-reflexive. So for me, it's not the question of more, it's a question of different, hence hacking ideologies, because we are more stupid than we were as 10 years ago, I think, as a society. And I think this comment, someone being angry, you know, about the Holocaust, and just look at the numbers and look at what's being done. Why do we not give those drug patents for free to Africa and Asia, whoever needs them to cure the people? It's simple.
This is FUD against capitalism. I strongly disagree. Sorry?
Sorry?
My English sucks, man. I would like to say something on the...
I was just going to comment on the first question. I'm not so interested in talking about the Holocaust. Capitalism, as the woman said, is not so much about making money, because I mean, you know, money is just sort of a wealth counter, so to speak. So we're really talking about is creating wealth, and of course, what creates wealth is work. Labor creates wealth. Capital is about making money from other people's work, right? So capitalism is about extracting money, not so much about making money, right? And when you talk about information, capitalism is also interested in information insofar as information allows workers to be more productive and thus create more wealth to extract. Right, so capitalism sees information in a very utilitarian sense, which is why they fund public education. Why public education is supported by capital is because it lowers the wages of certain classes of intellectual workers. And so the kind of information that capitalism is interested in is the kind of information that enhances productive capacity. The kind of information capitalism isn't interested in is the kind of information that emphasizes, you know, other aspects of life that aren't involved in productive work, or especially the kind of information that questions the system and the question and that for information about the nature of capitalism is not the kind of information they want you to have.
Hello, that's a very interesting talk. Thank you for coming there. I have a question about the new states that are being created, like Google, which is kind of new state. Compared to, this is a private state, and compared to a public state that we are living in right now, there is no guarantee for such as democracy inside these states. So maybe sometimes like Google or some things are very cool, doing very cool things, and they are maybe more open than some of the states we are living inside. But in the states we are living in, we have a way of controls, which is democracy. And there is not such thing in Google states or private states that are maybe coming in the future. How can we do to just make these private states being more democratic? Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer that. I had the last paragraph, so it seems to me as a hammer, so whoever asked the question, I would just use this hammer. That was a nail for me. So yeah, I agree, but I think that many things are coming from the design and architecture of the infrastructure, that's not just the intention or that people are so evil that they want to exploit. I mean, they are, but not just, it's not just about that. So it's very about the perspective. So if you are an actor on the market, then yes, you want monopoly. You want as bigger share on the market as possible. But in general, that there is almost no perspective on that. But from state to say like we need people competing and things like that. So I think it's really about what is your perspective, and here I can't see really a lot of entrepreneurs, so we will all agree like capitalism sucks, you know, but yeah, I think that there is some kind of balance, because my life in socialism just show me that it doesn't really always cut the prices when, you know, when you have whatever. But
The worker
about,
state of the East is only one, and
yeah,
one
so
highly controversial form
I
of
just
socialism.
realized that when there is something which we can say that that's not the real competition, but when there is some kind of competition, it cut the prices. So I'm not trying to say that capitalism is great, but just saying that there is some kind of space in between. And I think that it's really about the design and architecture of the infrastructure. So and the infrastructure of communication, which we have now, tends to bring us Google and the other, like very centralized. But how they actually compete is that inside they build systems which are distributed, and then they compete with, you know, who is actually more able to upscale, and the only way how they can do that is to do the distributed computing. So in that sense, it's really about when they will be forced, because they won't do that just because of their intentions, how they will be forced to actually come up with part of these infrastructures which they are building inside, so that will be part of the public infrastructure which we have now. So I see it as a possible progress where we'll have more of that in the future. So as I said at the beginning, is Linux ready for desktop? I think that that's irrelevant and outdated. So for me, it's much more when we will be able to build a huge global peer-to-peer BitTorrent-like encrypted and anonymized network infrastructure, so we will be able then to say fuck off to Google, Amazon, eBay, and the others. But at this stage, I just can see that they actually provide
how are we going to build that network, and how are we going to finance that network? Peer-to-peer technology has a great potential for changing the way we work, changing the way we share, changing the way all of our applications work. But the creation of any kind of technology requires the application of wealth, and the application of wealth has to come from some pool of accumulation. It can't come out of the sky or just drop from nowhere. And finance capital won't finance peer-to-peer technology, because peer-to-peer technology offers no point of mediation where value can be captured. So capitalism will only fund the kinds of technologies which are centralized, in which one central point is a key point where value can be captured and where control can be exercised. Peer-to-peer technology does not offer this mechanism, and so peer-to-peer technology will never receive any venture capital. And if you look at the actually existing internet, the only areas where peer-to-peer technology has any kind of footprint at all are in the very primitive areas of the early internet, things like email and Usenet that are mostly obsolete now, and criminal areas like file sharing that are completely at the margins of capitalism because they're used to actually break capitalist laws. In the actual big thing, the whole point of Web 2.0 is to achieve some of the promises of peer-to-peer technology, but in a centralized way, using web servers, using centralized technology to create user content, to create like folksonomies and stuff like that, but without actually letting the users control the technology itself. So it doesn't run on their own computers, on their own network facilities. It runs on centralized data centers at YouTube and Google and things like that. So therefore, it's ownable and controllable. So yes, I agree that the only time we can really sort of challenge the capitalist systems that control the internet is once we have these technologies, but you can't fund the technologies unless you can first accumulate the wealth to provide for their creation.
I would say, what would you say, like in 1985, will there be any investments in something like a non-private property in software? So that happened. So in that sense, it's really.
What do you mean?
I mean that if we will be in the 80s, and if we will talk about what will happen with the free software or copyleft approach, then you would probably say that there is no way that will succeed.
And that's not true. That's I was saying. Free software is no different.
Way, file sharing just killed the recording industry. I think that this was probably one of the last.
I haven't noticed its death,
recording
actually.
Industry Christmas, you know. So in that sense,
it's alive and well and in charge of your television and your record store and every aspect of your culture and media.
Let's take more questions.
Yeah, exactly. Does anyone
We have time for one short more question. Okay, this is going to be really hard to make short, but the letter from the chief technologist of Google was very fascinating to me to see how much an idea of freer culture can leak in, but it also kind of pointed out to me how much sometimes the technology sector doesn't see the larger picture of things, because Google is trying to suck in as many possible users because the system is sort of shifted to where the value is in the information it can suck from all the users. And so there is a very dark side, of course, to where Google is operating to get more people to operate within it. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that you don't see me as a propaganda for Google, because if these days in my environment, when you don't say that they are evil, then you are a promoter of Google, and I'm like, fuck, man, no, I'm not. But yeah, I don't see that as the evil.
Any more? No? Okay, thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you for talking.